I remember the exact moment it all started to unravel. She leaned back on the couch, phone in hand, her eyes dancing with excitement as she whispered, almost triumphantly, "I decide who I spend time with. You don't get a say." Her friends laughed, cheering her on like she'd just delivered some revolutionary manifesto. And me? I sat there, frozen, a slow, sinking feeling curling in my chest. That night, I realized I wasn't married to the woman I thought I knew. I was married to someone else entirely. We had been together for 7 years of laughter, whispered promises in the dark, mornings that felt sacred because we were ours alone. I remembered the early days vividly, the way she'd curl into my side, the small gestures of thoughtfulness, the way she made me feel like the center of her universe. I believed in us, in the we'd built. Every betrayal leaves a shadow, but the longer the light has shone, the darker the shadow feels when it hits. It wasn't sudden, it never is. I noticed subtle changes first. The way she'd text more than call, her sudden excitement over outings I wasn't invited to, the secretive giggles that faded when I entered the room. I'd write it off, rationalize it. I told myself I was paranoid. I wasn't. The truth slipped through cracks she thought I wouldn't notice. The weekend she spent with her friends, that weekend I wasn't allowed to participate in, was the turning point. I knew. I just knew. The first sign was subtle, a photo she sent, tagged with a place she claimed she was just exploring, yet I recognized the backdrop from her friend's social media post, the one she had mocked me for caring too much about. Then the texts, flirty, off-handed, the kind you can't mistake, and then the whisper of her name, my name, in conversations I wasn't meant to overhear, conversations that made my blood run cold. I spent a night staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, mind racing. Pain doesn't announce itself cleanly, it tiptoes in, a thief in the night. Anger followed immediately after, quiet, focused, not reckless. I didn't scream, I didn't confront her that night. I began to plan. Revenge isn't about chaos, it's about precision, and I intended to be surgical. I became a shadow in my own home, observing, collecting, storing every fragment of evidence she left, texts, receipts, even casual mentions to friends who thought their secrets were safe. I watched her interactions online, her smile for the camera, the subtle glances she gave certain people. I cataloged it all, built a web of proof that could never be denied. Every detail mattered. Everything she did became a part of a silent dossier, my secret weapon. Months passed. She remained oblivious, basking in the freedom she had carved out for herself, flaunting it casually as if it were her victory. Meanwhile, I moved silently, like the tide eroding a cliff. I prepared the legal groundwork, subtly shifted financial controls in my favor, consulted discreetly with attorneys under the guise of routine matters. I wasn't reckless, I was deliberate. I wanted her to see, eventually, that her choices had consequences, carefully measured, devastating consequences. The execution had to be perfect. My first move was small but symbolic. I confronted her friend circle in a way they couldn't ignore. A few pointed questions here, carefully placed facts there. Her carefully curated weekend facade began to crack, leaving tiny fissures she didn't see forming, but I did. Her friends started to distance themselves subtly. She noticed, but she misread it as chance, as coincidence. The seeds were planted. Then the financial leverage, quiet, unassuming. I transferred accounts, shifted assets, ensured that if the marriage dissolved, I had every contingency in place. She noticed nothing because she never suspected a man who appeared broken and defeated could be anything but compliant. That illusion became my armor. I wore the mask of hurt well, perfectly. Every sigh, every quiet dinner alone, every moment of seeming vulnerability, all carefully choreographed. The moment of revelation, the pinnacle of the plan, came on a Friday evening. She returned from another weekend away, exhilarated by her own sense of independence. I had orchestrated a small gathering at our home, a casual dinner, friends and family present, nothing overtly suspicious. I had prepared a slideshow, one simple projection, silently cued to display, a collage of her messages, photos, interactions she thought were private, interwoven with subtle hints she would recognize immediately. Not accusing, not dramatic, just undeniable. Her expression shifted as the first images flickered on the wall. Recognition, panic, the careful mask she wore for friends and herself began to crumble. What is this?" she whispered, voice trembling, but the control was gone. Not to me, she'd never have the satisfaction of a direct confrontation with full control, but to everyone else. Her friends, the same friends who had cheered her selfish declaration months ago, sat in stunned silence. They had been witnesses once, now they were witnesses to her unraveling. I didn't shout, I didn't berate, I let the evidence speak, let the truth of her choices, her betrayals, her disregard for the life we built stand before her like a mirror she couldn't break. And break she did. Quietly, in the corner of the room, as the reality she had ignored for months settled in. Her tears, her apologies, her desperate attempts to spin the story all fell flat. I was calm, collected. She realized too late that the man she had dismissed, the man she had underestimated, was not only still standing, but entirely in control. Friends and family slowly withdrew, the lies no longer holding any weight in their presence. She tried to salvage her image, but the facade was gone. Our marriage, already strained, was beyond repair. But this wasn't about ending us with anger. It was about restoring balance, about showing that manipulation and betrayal carry consequences, precise and inevitable. I had engineered justice without losing my composure, without descending into reckless vengeance. I remember the final conversation, or perhaps more accurately, the final acknowledgement. She approached me days later, quiet, diminished. I don't understand how you—" her voice faltered. I let the silence stretch. There was no satisfaction in gloating. Satisfaction lay in the truth itself, in the quiet power of seeing the betrayer confronted by their own actions, stripped of pretense. "I didn't do anything you couldn't handle," I said softly. "You chose the freedom you wanted. I chose to act on the truths you ignored." She had no reply. She didn't need one. The truth, our history, the evidence, it spoke louder than any argument. Walking away from that moment, from her, from the marriage that could no longer exist, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not triumph, not joy, a strange, cold clarity. Pain had once been my guide, but planning and execution had been my teacher. I realized that in betrayal there is a power shift, not from chaos, but from control. I reclaimed my life, piece by deliberate piece, leaving her to confront the consequences of her own choices. In the end, she had freedom. I had control. She had friends cheering her independence. I had the quiet, unshakable knowledge that justice had been served, not in chaos, not in confrontation, but in careful, patient execution. I don't boast, I don't gloat, I just move forward, stronger, wiser, unburdened by the weight of what she took for granted. The house feels emptier now, quieter, but the emptiness is a different kind of peace. There is no lingering doubt, no fear of betrayal repeating. I have learned that when someone insists they decide alone who they spend their time with, they leave a trail, and if you follow it carefully, with patience and precision, you can turn that trail into a map, one that leads directly to accountability. I don't hate her, not anymore. Hatred is messy, undisciplined. I feel only a cold satisfaction, the calm knowledge that the scales, once unbalanced, are now corrected. My revenge was never about spectacle. It was about truth, clarity, and reclamation. Every move measured, every consequence inevitable. And as I close this chapter, walking forward with my life intact, I know something profound. Betrayal may wound, but intelligence, patience, and silent strength are unassailable. I learned that love can be betrayed, but strategy cannot. Pain can be endured, but planning cannot be ignored. And those who underestimate quiet, controlled intelligence, they are doomed to fall. She did, and I rose.